Hello and welcome to the 52 Coffees podcast. I am Cindee Williams, your host, and I am so thankful you are here today because I have two fabulous women with me who are living exceptional lives, who are advancing daily and achieving their dreams. But first of all, I want you to know that 52 Coffees podcast is sponsored by Lead My Life, which is a dynamic coaching platform and community for women, empty nest moms who are just wanting to unlock the life of their dreams. If you want to know more, go to leadmylife.com and pay us a visit. Right now, I am so excited to be introducing you to two women that I really have just recently met. And all three of us are going to be speakers at the Women in Business event at the end of August with the Temecula Valley Chamber of Commerce. And they're just dynamos. I am so excited just to have this conversation, just to get to know them a little bit personally. But first, we have Veronica Cisneros, and she's a licensed marriage family therapist with Outside the Norm counseling. And I first saw her speak just a little bit at a coffee connection. I'm like, oh, I love her energy. I got to meet her. So super excited to talk with you. And then today we have Stacey Dunn, who is a mentor, a life coach, and author, and the VP of marketing with Chick-fil-A Temecula. So two powerhouse women. We're going to have fantastic conversation. But first, I'm going to have Veronica just introduce herself and tell a little bit about her story. Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Veronica.
Yeah, so definitely. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I teach high achieving women how to stay married without compromising their careers. I'm also the host of the podcast Empowered and Unapologetic, and also a speaker. I am so excited to be here with all three of you. So, about me, growing up, I grew up with a father who was an alcoholic, a heroin addict, as well as a gang member. And so, not really being introduced to therapy, even though I think all of us needed it. So for me, it was all about providing people with a voice. More so my mom, being able to help her, empower her, but I was also only a kid. And so I was able to develop a career where I do just that. I teach moms to really feel empowered and unapologetic. And really step outside of their comfort zone and own who they are. And I've been practicing for close to 10 years. I own a group private practice called Outside the Norm Therapy or Outside the Norm Counseling. We provide nonstop therapy, and I have a team of 5 clinicians in total. Mother of 3, and I've been married for 24, going on 25 years. Thank you so much for having me.
Veronica, there's no way you've been married for 24 years.
Yeah,
Did you
it'll
get
be
married when
25.
you're two? You
It'll
look
be 25 in October.
wow, congratulations. There is so much to unpack in what you just said, and I'm
Oh,
sorry
yeah.
you had 3 minutes, but there's such a bridge between where you started and then forming a career out of that. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness. So wow, what an amazing story. There's so much there. Well, Stacey, I want to hear from you. So where did you get, from the very beginning to where you are now in 3 minutes or less?
All right, I could do this. So again, my name is Stacey Dunn, and I'm excited to be here with these amazing ladies and to be able to speak in Women in Business out at Pechanga on August 29th. Where I came from to where I am now is completely through God. It sounds very cliche to say it, but I have to say, when I was growing up, I have a story a lot like what Veronica was saying. I grew up with my father, who was a family therapist as well. So growing up in that, it's a lot like growing up with the father being a pastor. So I was that pastor child growing up. I was able to see and understand what so many people in this world were going through by actually being encouraged to sit in sessions and kind of view. And that's what I was going to school for originally, I thought, to be a therapist. Moving through my life, I was able to see that's not where I want to be. I want to be a nurse, is what I thought. So becoming that, started going to school, loving what it was. And then God said, nope. As I'm on a trip out at the Bahamas, he decides he's going to tell me I'm actually going to be working for Chick-fil-A over something that was presented to me at church. Never thought in a million years I'd work for a fast food. Totally not what I thought God wanted me to call for. And as I came back from being on travel and met with the owner of that Chick-fil-A out in Ontario 13 years ago, I was able to connect, understand the vision that God had for me, and come in as a marketing director. From there, I'm very excited to say I am married to an amazing man. We together have 5 girls, 1 boy, and 3 granddaughters. We love what we do in life. My husband is a Christian DJ, also works for Trader Joe's. I'm now the vice president of Chick-fil-A Temecula, and I handle all their marketing and outside sales. And through that, I have been able to grow, see the community grow with me, and to impact others through my business life coaching, which I get to do, to be able to see where people are at, meet them where they're at, and help them to achieve their dreams.
Wow. Wow.
Try to do all that in 3 minutes.
Yes. So how many years for you, Stacey, in marriage?
So I'm on my second marriage. I was with my first husband for 24 years. Yes, I married him when I was 2. And now I am on my amazing second marriage, very blessed. And we're going on 6 years, August 25th. And together we have a combined family that has been just nothing but joy. And I'm very blessed by all that God's showing me, what it means to be where you are at with who God created me to be able to step into the season that God has us both together to become one.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I
Thank
love
you.
I love hearing about women having fulfilling marriages. And when I
Yes.
first heard Veronica speak, I'm like, oh, that's my heart. So I love that you're doing that, Veronica. Just a brief minute on what I do. 33 years of marriage. I think 34 in December, but married an amazing man who really guided me in my faith journey, and just love adventuring together and just enjoying life. I came from and I think this is kind of a theme through all of us, as seasons of loss. We moved 18 times in 18 years growing up, so really had difficult time making connections with friends, because as soon as you made them, you were gone. You're off to the next one. So had trouble forming deep connections, and of course in adult life having those friendships as women. So connection now is just something that's near and dear to my heart, learning how to do that as a 56-year-old woman. So excited. Let's
beautiful.
get into talking about what we're speaking on: connection, collaboration, and celebration. So first of all, let's just start with, what is the importance that you guys see as coming together, professional women, all backgrounds, throwing the labels to the side, and really be able to support each other and celebrate each other? It's something that we just have a really hard time doing. So let's talk about that a little bit. What's the importance of that? Veronica, how can you speak to that?
I think the biggest takeaway is the fact that a lot of women are intimidated by each other, and there's so many stigmas wrapped around that. You have, who's the best mom, and what makes you a good mom, and do you meet all of the qualifications? Where are you at in your marriage? What does your marriage look like? What does your house look like? And there are all of these kind of like statuses that basically determine your worth. And we this women's conference is all about breaking that stigma and really collaborating, celebrating, connecting, right? Really getting us to a place where we can celebrate each other's success, not compare, not compete, but really, really celebrate and uplift one another, build each other up, and motivate each other so we don't stay stuck, suffering silently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I think that stuck is such a great explanation. I talk about eddies. I don't know if either one of you have been whitewater rafting before.
No.
And you go down, okay, so this is going to be lost, but you go down a river and you go over an obstacle, like a big rock. And on the other side of the rock, the water swirls around. And if you get stuck in the eddy, if you capsize, you'll go under, you'll die. I mean, you'll get pinned against the rock, and it's very, very difficult to get out once you get stuck in an eddy. So I always like have that frame of reference, like don't get stuck in the eddy. And then
Yes.
how do we get out of that? It's by having the support, which Veronica was talking about, that the inner circle, that support, that celebration of each other instead of competing. Stacey, what would you say is the importance of this connection and collaboration celebration?
I would say it's knowing that everybody has a community, but you have to have the courage to get out and find what that community is for you, because we're all so unique in how we connect with people. All three of us are going to be on stage speaking, but we may speak to one person's heart when there's 800 people in the room. We may not all be speaking to everybody collectively, but we'll have a piece of something to give to everybody that hits their heart. And that is because we are made so uniquely different. As Veronica said, we're not a cookie cutter. So
No.
when you see these women that are out there, there is so much competitiveness, so much deterioration of their own thoughts that allow them not to grow. It keeps them from growing. And I feel that this woman in business is going to show everybody there is something for them. They just have to find what their community is, the courage to know who they are, and the understanding to be able to know if you have something that you are giving to someone else, as long as you completely believe in what that is, they will understand your passion behind it. It's not even work, it becomes a connection. And I love to call it an emotional connection. We connect with certain people through an emotional connection. And whether that's the body language, the optimistic warmth, or just the words spoken over, it's going to be given such a power up at this woman in business, because we all three together are collaborating in such a beautiful way of not competing, of wanting to encourage and empower one another, and knowing that we want to make a difference in someone's life while we're up on stage and after, and for them to leave better than they walked in.
Yeah, that's the objective. What you talked about, that each one of us, whenever you speak, it's like you can take, I like to call them nuggets of truth. When I was a teacher, I had my principal. She used to say, there's always a nugget of truth in what
Yes.
anybody says, even if it's criticism, even if it's bad, you always can find something that you can apply. So it's like people can take, or the women there, and men too will be there, can take little nuggets, from whatever we say, pack them into their
Right.
tool belt, and walk out and actually put it into practice. I
Absolutely.
yeah, I like to think of it as just pure value. It's just, how do I value myself? Because it starts
Yes.
within us. We have to take the lead within our own life first, and then it ripples outward. And then that allows that confidence that Veronica was talking about. Really, just if when we develop that confidence, we're able to let down those walls and just know who we are, walk into it, own it, know what value we bring to other people, and let them know that they're valued just beyond measure.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I really love is that nobody has more value than another.
That's right.
We all have infinite value. So we don't have to compete, because you're just as valuable as I am. You may have different gifts, but again, those gifts came from a giver. So that's important to remember.
Amen. Absolutely.
Veronica, one thing, and I'm going to look at my notes here because I think this is key to what we're talking about. You have in here just that when we have that jealousy, when we have that insecurities, which we all do, we all struggle with it on some level, it's because we're a work in progress. That combating that with personal growth. Can you speak to that? How does personal growth combat that?
So you have a lot of unhealed past pain
Mhm.
and some past trauma, and a good amount of us stay stuck in it. And so you have suffering, or
Mhm.
you have pain, right?
Mhm.
Pain is inevitable. We're all going to experience some form of pain, some a lot more severe than others.
Mhm.
Suffering is optional. And
Mhm.
so when we choose to go ahead and heal our past pain, when we choose to go ahead and work on our insecurities whenever they're exposed, when we choose to work on maybe some of our bad habits, maybe some of the things that we don't necessarily like about ourselves, not what other people like or dislike, but maybe we compromise ourselves. Maybe we're codependent. Maybe we pretend we're something we're not to fulfill this void in a relationship. When we're able to truly heal that, what we're able to do is we're able to come to this place of acceptance, accepting that we can't change the past. We can definitely learn from it. We can definitely own the fact that it caused us a great amount of pain, however, not be handcuffed to it and move forward. And in that, we're able to establish change. When we stay in suffering, we stay in the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, all of these excuses, it's their fault, and we stay in that blame, or we stay in that competition, or we start to compare. All of that it's our insecurities exposed, but we repeat that pattern over and over and over again, and it leads us to nowhere. It's almost as if we stay handcuffed to it until that other person validates us and tells us it's okay to move forward, which is never going to happen. The minute we choose to go ahead and do the work, we then release ourselves from that bondage and we move forward and we live this life where we're no longer looking, from side to side in comparison, but we're looking ahead and we're also motivating. We don't see anything as a competition anymore because of our own healing.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. What you just said is like fire.
Yes.
You want to stay close to the fire. That's beautiful. And you talked about handcuffs, and I was in a speech contest this past week, and an adult 56-year-old woman, and one of the contestants, he talked about padlocks on our purpose, and I thought that was so powerful. It just like gave me such a picture in my mind. And you're talking about the handcuffs, but we like padlock ourselves, into our limiting. I don't like limiting beliefs. I call them ceilings. We put ceilings on ourselves, or doubts, or our insecurities, but we padlock. And the thing is that the padlock, it's unlocked.
Yeah.
We just keep it there. We just keep it there. We can walk out of it if we have the personal growth plan, which is what you were speaking about, Veronica. But yet we choose to keep it on us. So what would you say? Continue that thought, Stacey, on a personal.
Absolutely. So looking at what you both ladies are saying, which was absolutely incredible, what I received and what I always like to say in my growth is breaking the triggers and the chains. And the chains could be the handcuffs, the chains could be the padlocks that we're speaking of. But there are triggers in which we do to ourselves. And instead of breaking the chains to know what's holding us back, we stay in that stuck, I call very existent state. And we feel that's where we are. And that makes us at a place where we're not going to grow. So how I've been able to break that chain is by recognizing the triggers, recognizing what are the fears and anything that's inhibiting me from moving forward, attacking it directly, understanding it, and moving through it. A lot of people don't want to move through it. They want to go straight to a medication. They want to go straight to depression. And it's not of them wanting to, they subconsciously don't even know that they're doing it. What I always like to say when people say, well, how did you go from here to there? I mean, how did you grow? You had to have had trials and tribulations. I had tons of challenges growing up, as we all have a story. Growing up, though, has been allowing me to say every single thing that happened to me, I was able to look at and say, what can I learn from that? What can I help someone else through it? And what are the tools I received that I know work to be able to help the next person? But I will just say this, ladies, before we jump onto your next subject there, Cindee, I really want it to be known, and it's something I feel strong about, and I think the two of you will attest to this. It doesn't matter how many tools we all give to a person. If that person is not ready to recognize what their trigger is, what their past hurt is, what their chain or bondage is, they're going to be exactly where they are. And they just keep repeating it and repeating it. So I just hope that this podcast encourages people to maybe go, that's me. All these three ladies on here, we're all saying the same thing in a different way, and allow them to recognize who God created them to be able to believe enough in themselves that they can do anything set forth in front of them, as long as they have the determination, the confidence, and the will.
Yeah. Yeah. To step out of it. Yeah.
That's
Beautiful.
right.
And recognizing triggers is huge, but it does take
Yes.
there's first the intentionality of going, hey, I got a problem, right? And being willing to do the work.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you know, so it could take 30 years, or you could be ready today, you know, but you
Right.
can't rush it. It's when that person is ready, and then learning that awareness, and that awareness,
Absolutely.
then you go, oh, I don't want to go through that again. So I'm just going to stop right here, you know, and you know it.
Yes.
Now you've done the personal growth and you recognize the triggers.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So let's move on. Such a great discussion. Thank you so much. So how do each of us see the cause or result of this spirit of disconnection? Because we're talking about connection, collaboration, and celebration, but we feel disconnected. You know, our lives, I feel like our lives are just compartmentalized. You know, we just put everything that works here, face here at life. So how do you feel that disconnection plays into how we're feeling right now?
Great question. We're not intentional.
Yeah.
We're so quick to check the box. We're so quick to address the task. Not really truly living the life, our lives. You know, one story I always give is I remember doing a family photo shoot, and I, had mentioned to the photographer I wanted to be candid shots. I love the look of the candid shots. I totally want it. And here I am, telling my kids to smile as they're running around, and
Yeah.
having my husband, yelling at my husband and telling him to knock it off, like, stop playing with the kids. Like, we're supposed to be smiling, or get on your game. And I remember looking at the end results, they gave us the photo album, and I look like a stressed out mom. I look stressed, so frustrated. And my husband looks like father of the year. He is having the kids look so scared of me, intimidated by me, forced smiles. But with him, it's just like, he's throwing them around. He has them upside down. And it really, really, that right there was such a huge lesson for me, not only personally, but how I am in my practice, how I am, with with my patients. It really, really helped me bring it back to, what am I trying to run away from?
Yeah.
Why am I so eager to check the next box? And what I realized is that's where I received the most validation. If I was able to check the box, I knew I was doing it right. If I was able to say the right thing and somebody responded to me, with gratitude or appreciation, oh, I did that right. And I realized, well, that wasn't living life authentically. I was missing it.
Yeah.
And once I started truly showing up, letting go of all of the roles that I thought I needed to be, that's when I was the most intentional and experienced not happiness, experienced joy.
Yes.
True
Yeah.
joy, right?
Yeah. That just freedom. That's
Yes.
I call it
Yes.
living in the flow. You're just living
Yes.
in the flow because you're just free to be who you are. What a beautiful
Absolutely.
example. Thank you for sharing so authentically with us. I read something in one of the John Maxwell books I'm reading, and he asks this question, how do others experience you? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's powerful because,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm just so quick and, just wanting to get the thing done. And, how are people receiving that, and we don't stop and think about that. But super powerful example. Thank you, Veronica.
Absolutely.
What would you say about disconnection?
I think disconnection is honestly a spirit of control. We
Mm,
need to be in control so much of everything that's around us. And when we feel out of control, we feel disconnected from a situation. Then we
mhm.
start manifesting thoughts that become a reality in our head. When they're not even real, it's a lie.
Mhm.
So there's so many times where I'll be in a situation and I myself am fighting off these spirits, going, oh my gosh, this is all being thrown into my head. And it's because I maybe don't feel in control in that moment,
Mhm.
because something else is going around and we have an idea of how we think something should be. Kind of like Veronica said, she wanted candid shots with her family. She wanted it to be a certain way. And we all get in that same exact, we start wanting to have it in our heads what it should be, and we don't allow ourselves just to be, as you both said, free in the moment to just say, I'm going to trust that this is going to be exactly how it should be, and
Yeah.
just believe in it and just flow with it and allow just life to happen with it. But like Veronica said, with intentionality, we
Yeah.
have to be we have to be intentional on every single thing we do, but we won't always be in control on what we want to do. So we have to kind of go with the flow. I call it pivoting in my world. We have to pivot a tremendous amount because not everything goes exactly as planned. So if
Yeah.
we don't have that understanding in our head to take a step back, and I call it pause, breathe, and assess,
Mhm.
and go, how bad is this? What's happening this moment?
Mhm.
Versus allowing my emotion to take complete control, and it gets you in the spirit of a tornado. And before you know it, you're going, what just happened? This was just supposed to be an easy thing that has manifested and turned into more. And we've done it mostly ourselves. So when I see that spirit of division, it's usually caused because we're reacting to someone else doing something to us instead of just taking a moment to see what it really is at hand.
Yeah, that stepping back just to go,
Absolutely.
calm down, cool down, step back and look at the situation. And to speak on from what both of you have said is that I don't know who said, I think it might have been Ed Milet where I heard this, just that on the other side of discipline, intentionality is freedom. So even in
Yes.
freedom,
Yep.
freedom's not just living your life willy-nilly all over the place. It takes discipline and intentionality to get to a place of freedom. That's that personal growth plan. That's being intentional with your life. All of it leads to living life in the flow. It's kind of a beautiful thing. So last
Yes.
last point, because I hear this so much and I've felt it, just being isolated, when you're working remotely and away from people, and we disconnect, and we live in the most connected time of history, yet we're the most disconnected. So how would you speak to the women that we're going to be talking to about loneliness, about isolation, and what can they do to combat that? And we'll just kind of each give our piece and go ahead.
I feel like I feel like we're all lonely. I did this podcast series on high achieving women, and these
Mhm.
are like next level women killing it in business, entrepreneurship. And one thing that became very, very clear was how lonely each one of them were. They didn't
Yeah.
feel understood. They have these high goals, high dreams, not feeling necessarily understood by their husbands or even their friends. You know, they felt connected when they were around women who also had, similar drive and dreams, and goals. And being able to go ahead and say that out loud, it's not something any of us say. We
Yeah.
don't say, I feel alone. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and avoid that loneliness with another task. We'll
Yeah.
put more things on our plate. But if we were able to just admit that, especially if somebody's asking us, how are we doing? I love what you just said, Cindee. It's isolating working from home and
Mhm.
being able to say that.
Yeah.
And I know that's one thing you do really, really well with your coffee connection, but being able to say, it's been lonely. I found that so many women, when one person is honest, so many women gravitate to that and say, me too. And then
Wow.
it establishes this beautiful relationship.
Mhm.
And so I would definitely say to those women that are feeling, alone, not to go ahead and avoid it and add another task to your plate, but to really, really obviously come to this conference, but
Yeah.
also connect with women that are going after maybe not the same dreams but similar ones, because just I feel connected with the two of you,
Yeah.
Cindee and Stacey. And I know that we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's that raising your hand. And I love that you brought that up and said, hey, I'm not feeling quite right, and I found myself, it's 2020 and I looked around and I'm like, if I had a bladder infection in the middle of the night, who would I call?
Yeah.
If I
Right.
wanted to go, and who would take me to the hospital if my husband wasn't here? If I want to go to a movie, I was like, do I even have friends? And I really didn't. And, so it was for me, that's where the 52 coffees came from, is that I needed that in my life. I recognized it as a
Yes.
need. I buried it under a ton of activities and clubs and organizations and writing books and doing all the things. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I need connection. I need friendship, and I need to figure out how to do it. So I love that you brought it up. I think it's just this. Hello.
Yeah.
Lonely
100%.
Hearts Club. Raise your
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Stacey, how would you speak to that?
So listening to what you're both saying, I can relate 100%. I think during COVID was an eye-opening experience for all of us. I'm a very big extroverted person. I love people. I meet them at an airport and I feel like I've known them for 20 years, but not everybody's that way.
No.
So for me, being isolated at home felt like a gel around me. And I
Yeah.
started talking to so many other women, so many other people who were feeling the same way. And as soon as we were able to even go through a drive-through, like a Chick-fil-A, it felt so exciting to go through that drive-through because you were going to connect with somebody, something.
Eye to eye.
Eye to eye. And so to me, loneliness is, look at Robin Williams, the funniest man in the world and the most depressed man in the world. So for me, when I look at loneliness, I say it's so different for every person.
Yeah.
Because someone can have a huge community and still feel that loneliness. Another person could be like Robin Williams, who had the world and was still so miserable and unhappy. So the first thing that I always say to someone is, let's talk about what your loneliness feels to you.
Yeah.
And let's look at it. A lot of times the loneliness can be categorized into so many different areas. They don't feel worthy. They don't get to do what they love to do. They don't feel happy. And
Yeah.
it breaks down, as Veronica will know even more than anybody, into 20,000 other things to it. So when I'm speaking to someone, I first hear, what are they really lonely about?
Yeah.
Because it is so different for me, for you, Cindee, for Veronica, for any other people that we're speaking to. And they have to admit it and say, I really love to play soccer, but I haven't been able to play. Well, have you gone to a soccer game? Find a common ground that's going to ignite and excite what has been brought to death inside you. And then I always say this, find that community, but most importantly, find that one special person, like you're saying, Cindee, because you can have a million acquaintances. Robin Williams spoke of this, and I keep using it because he blew me away watching what he went through, or Michael Jackson. They were so incredible, right? But they didn't have that one person. They had the world loving on them, but not that one person that they can call and go, hey, Cindee, hey, Veronica, I'm feeling it. Can we just like break it loose, put on some sweats, sit around and watch First Wives Club or something on TV together? They don't have that. And so I'm always trying to express to someone that don't look up what loneliness feels, because you're getting a cliche definition, but it's an emotional. So what I always tell people is this, let's first find out why you're lonely, what you're missing, and let's move forward on, if you love to dance and you're missing the dance, what's holding you back from dancing? Let's get out there. Let's get a couple people and just go. Because eventually the loneliness breaks once we address, as we've all been saying, the underlying triggers. But find a community that's going to build you. This Women in Conference, everybody's there for a purpose, to learn something, to be supported by one another, and to feel connected. And I know when we come off that stage, they're going to be more connected than they were before they even heard of us or met us, because we've said something that has triggered their heart and made them feel motivated or excited or ready to walk through whatever they're feeling in that moment that's holding them back.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that you used the example of Robin Williams, because that was one of the ones that one got me. We watched Good Morning Vietnam when we were camping just a month ago, and my husband and I were speaking of that. But you
Yes.
may look like you have the entire world, and you're hurting inside. And I call that inner circle is like the very first thing that we need to develop. I call them my arm holders. Who are your
Yes.
arm holders? Because we all need them. So I think we're all in agreement of that. And so if you are coming, we're going to kind of wrap it up. But I want to encourage who's ever listening. Maybe they're listening to this before or after the event, but I want you to know, and all three of us want you to know that you matter, that you're
Yes.
seen, that you're loved, that you have value that's infinite, that you are a person that has beautiful gifts and talents. And we hope you come to the Women in Business so that all three of us can pour into your heart and into your life, and you take some wonderful nuggets of truth away. So I want to thank you, Veronica, for coming on, and thank you, Stacey. And of course, if you want to listen to more of the 52 Coffees, make sure you subscribe. But we hope to see you at the Women in Business on August 29th.
Yeah.
8 to 2 p.m., Pechanga Resort and Casino, all the things. Purchase your tickets, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.